Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Kreepy Kitty Creation. Today we'll be doing an anime doll repaint of Violet Evergarden from the Netflix anime, which is just beautiful. If you haven't seen it already, definitely watch it. It's beautiful and emotive anime. So Violet Evergarden is a auto memories doll. So she writes letters for people who don't know how to write. It's gorgeous, and the character development in the anime is amazing. It's one of the best I've ever. I think I've binge watched it 2 times already. So I started off her face up with 3 base layers of Mr. Super Clear before going in with the drawing out the eyes first. I usually do blushing first, but because I struggle with getting the eyes equal, I thought I'd do those first this time, and it went surprisingly well. Violet doesn't have really any makeup on in the anime, so I wanted to go for a really natural look. So just using some natural peach tones with just a very subtle hint of red in her lips. So I just build those up slowly throughout the face up. For those of you who follow me on Instagram probably know that I actually started on this doll back in December, starting with her body blushing and her prosthetic arms, which took 2 weeks to paint using watercolour pencils, and I also made her outfit by hand, so sadly I didn't get any of that on film, but we will have a sewing tutorial on how to make her outfit sometime soon, so hopefully that will make up for that. So now I've just gone in with some very light blushing with natural light brown tones and just a little bit of red mixed in with it. Even for a no makeup look, I like to have a little bit of blush and eyeshadow around the eyes. So I added some red mostly around the corner of the eyes to also give her a nice, very subtle blush on her cheeks. Even for makeup in real life, I just think it looks so cute. It gives people a sort of dreamy look, I think. I've always just really loved that type of blushing. You see the head popping out of the frame? That's just me blowing off excess pastel, so sorry about that. I'm just doing some wee bit of blushing under the eyebrows, getting ready to put those in with pastel later. I freely admit I put them off as long as I possibly can. I hate doing eyebrows. I think it was, usually I don't do the 3 layers of Mr. Super Clear beforehand, but I did this time, so the colour pencil actually took really well compared to my mermaid doll, so I'll definitely be doing that in the future. And then going in with a darker colour pencil in blue, just to make a slight gradient before going over with pastels to make the transition smoother. And then tracing over what I've already sketched in for the eyes in a tannish colour pencil, just because I didn't want them to show up too dark. I wanted them to look quite natural. White colour pencil doesn't take overly well, I find. I use the Faber Castell. I'm still not having much luck with the Derwent, so I've just been favouring Faber Castell, but I still end up waiting until later and wetting my brush and going in there with wet watercolour pencil, because it comes out so much brighter. Just some slight shading around the nose. So now I'm going to spray, I like what I've done so far, so I'll spray that with Mr. Super Clear. Don't forget your eye goggles, gloves, and I just bought a new filtration mask, so I feel so much safer spraying. So these filters are P100, which is recommended for Mr. Super Clear because it's highly toxic. And even though I hold my breath while I spray, I still like that sense of safety from having these really high filtration filters. So now to bite the bullet and sketch in her eyebrows. I do this with a very light yellow pastel first because Violet has blonde hair. I end up going back in there with darker tan because they're not showing up very well. And then I just sketch out the hairs with that same tan pencil. They didn't come out too badly this time, so I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't have to try and erase them like I usually do. Just going in there with some highlights with a yellow pencil as well, just to make those hairs really realistic looking. I try to be quite restrained with my blushing earlier on, so I do have to go in there quite a few times afterwards to darken up some of these colours, but I would rather put less on earlier and have to go back in rather than put too much on and not be able to take it off. Violet is my first doll with such a natural look, so I was a little bit nervous and really didn't want to overdo it and make it look like she was wearing too much makeup. So now I'm just going in with a dark blue colour pencil to sketch in her pupils and just darken the top of the eyes and darken up the eye line and her eyeliner. I'm doing this with a dark brown rather than black because I didn't want to overdo it too soon, and I thought brown would look more natural, and then I can just go in later with a little bit of black. And brown is much easier to erase. There are so many amazing characters in Violet Evergarden. For those of you who have seen the show, if there's any other characters that you'd like to see a doll of, please comment below, or even if it's not from the Violet Evergarden anime, if there's any anime dolls that you'd like to see in future, please feel free to comment below and let me know. I love making anime dolls. So after sharpening my pencil to get it really sharp, I sketch in her bottom eyelashes and then go back into the lips with some very light strokes to get the texture of normal lips. And just build up some more blushing around the side of her face. So this is all still on the second layer, which I thought was pretty good. Usually I have to spray a lot more in between. even though I'll be giving her false lashes, I still like going in and drawing the top lashes in as well, just in case I don't like them or change my mind later on. So now I'm going to go in with some Pearl powders, blue, green and a whitish gold, and I'm going to put this on the inside of her eye there. I do this with my own makeup as well because it just makes the eyes look brighter, more awake, and also add to that dreamy look. I do this a few times throughout because one layer never seems to be enough. The Mr. Super Clear dulls it down significantly. Put some under her brows as well, just to highlight that area. And then brush some on her skin just to make it have a nice shine. And then go in with the blue-green for her eyes to give it some shimmer. So after spraying with Mr. Super Clear, I go back in and get some more of that eye detail that was lost when I put on the Pearl powder. So resketching in the pupils and outlining the eyes in the darker blue. Sorry, my hand blocks a little bit. And then going in with some dark pastel as well, just building up that transition. Now I'm just wetting a teeny tiny brush and going in with some watercolour pencil to brighten up those eye whites. Sorry, my hand's blocking a lot there. I'm still waiting for a new camera stand to arrive. Now I'm just adding some darker red to the waterline, just to build up some shadows. And adding a little black to the top lash line and the eyeliner, just to make it a darker, more striking. And then going into her eyebrows with a darker brown, just for some definition. And then I'm wetting my black watercolour pencil and basically giving her liquid eyeliner. Blending it in with the brown. This particular technique, wetting a paintbrush and then going in with watercolour pencil, you do need to make sure that the paintbrush is quite wet or the colour doesn't transfer very well and you don't have a lot of control. So if you see a lot of back and forth, it's just me dipping that paintbrush in water to reactivate the watercolour pencil. I tried to go in with a light grey pastel to give some shading to the whites of her eyes. It didn't really take very well because I used wet watercolour, so I'll have to do that after I've sprayed another coat of Mr. Super Clear later. Now I'm just redefining her bottom lashes, mixing them in with the brown. I tried to give her a relatively expressionless look, just because Violet is quite new to expressing feelings, so she generally keeps her face very neutral, almost robotic, and it's really satisfying seeing that develop throughout the series. So now I'm going in with my wet paintbrush again and watercolour and adding some light strokes to her eyes just to build up colour. So I'm alternating between light blues and dark blues to try and make them look realistic. And then I'll go back in with some black to redefine the pupils. And outlining just the top outline of her eye in black. After spraying Mr. Super Clear on the fourth layer, I go back in with some pure white Pearlex powder just to bring back those highlights and make them more visible, especially on the inner portion, the inner corner of the eye. And just bring some highlights on her eyelid. Some of that definition was lost when I went back and did some blushing. If you'd like to see any progress photos of her outfit being made, please feel free to check out my Instagram. I've got quite a few photos on there from when I was making her outfit back in December, and I really wish I could make a human-size outfit because her dress is gorgeous. Has to be one of the prettiest costumes I've ever seen in an anime. Now I'm wetting the paintbrush and going back in with that tan watercolour pencil to redefine parts of her eyebrow hairs. I tried wetting the brush to make the Pearlex powder stick better, and that worked quite well, and it stopped it from being toned down too much by the Mr. Super Clear. Now to add the eye shines, which is always stressful for me. First stroke I hated it, so I ended up just activating that with water and taking it off, which is why it's always important to spray your Mr. Super Clear before you do your eye shines and use watercolour pencils, and then it's really easy to remove. Now I'm just adding some black and dark grey to the area around the eye whites to try and make her eyes look more 3D. And a little bit more red to her lips just to bring those out a bit more. And now we're finished with the face. So this is the body that I did back in December with her two prosthetic mechanical arms. So this is done with a combination of silver acrylic paint and black watercolour pencil, activated with a wet paintbrush. These took 2 weeks to make, and about 4 different layers just to build up the colour, sketch them out and get the definition, referencing pictures from the anime to make sure I drew them right. Unfortunately, the acrylic did still scrape off the joints, but other than that I'm quite impressed with how they held up. So now we're going to put the head back on the body using a hairdryer, and now I can gloss her lips. I always try to leave this until after I put the head back on the body because I'm always scared of messing it up or scraping off the varnish. So I use Liquitex high gloss varnish, and once that's all dry I get her eyelashes ready, cut them down to size. I use Elmer's glue all to put them on. I was originally going to film this, but it was a bit too difficult with my current setup. I was having to sort of duck out of the way from my light, and it made gluing them really difficult. So I ended up doing this off camera, but I used Delightful's technique of gluing the inner corner, waiting for it to fully dry, and then building it up the layers, and that worked really well. So this is the eyelashes all on and all finished. I've trimmed them a wee bit so they aren't too hardcore. And this is her finished wig and outfit, so we'll dress her up. In hindsight, I can see a much easier way to do her dress by incorporating the puffs into the jacket so that the dress is actually short sleeves, but at least I know this for next time. I used a lot of domes just to keep everything in place, and repainted a pair of Monster High boots. The jacket sadly was way too complicated to use a machine, so that one was completely sewn by hand. I had originally made her wee brooch that she got as a gift, but sadly it must have come off at some point, and now it has teeth marks from my puppy. I made her buns removable using sewing pins. And we have a finished Violet Evergarden anime doll. I really hope you liked the video. If you haven't seen the anime, definitely give it a watch if you're into anime. It's a beautiful series and her character is amazing. It was really a bit of a marathon making this doll, but it was definitely worth it. Please hit like if you liked the video, and if you'd like to see more Kreepy Kitty creations, please hit subscribe. It makes me happy, and thank you for watching.